Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. I'm known around here as Mr. Thomas, the stern, no-nonsense boss of a big company. My suit was perfectly tailored, my tie straight, and my briefcase full of important documents. But inside, there was a different story. I often felt like I was wearing a costume, playing a part that wasn't truly me. I had a secret that nobody at work knew about. I struggled with my gender identity. Every morning, I followed the same routine. Wake up, dress in my business attire, and put on the persona of Mr. Thomas. It was like wearing a mask. At home, I had a small, hidden collection of clothes that were very different from my suits. They were women's clothes, dresses, skirts, and blouses. But these were kept under lock and key, hidden away like a forbidden treasure. I remember the first time I tried on a dress. It was late at night, and everyone else was asleep. I snuck into my secret stash and chose a simple, elegant dress. The fabric felt soft against my skin, so different from the stiff suits I wore daily. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone who looked happier, more like the person I felt I was inside. But then, reality hit. I was scared. What if someone found out? So I quickly changed back into my pajamas and hid the dress away. At work, I kept everything strictly professional. My assistant, Mr. Jenkins, had been with me for years. He was efficient and knew exactly how I liked things done. We had a comfortable routine, and I depended on him for managing my hectic schedule. But then, Mr. Jenkins announced he was retiring. I was happy for him, but also anxious about who would replace him. The day came when my new assistant was to start. Her name was Sarah, a young woman fresh out of college, bright-eyed and eager to start her career. She was nothing like Mr. Jenkins. Sarah was energetic, always smiling, and brought a new vibe to the office. It took some time to get used to her different way of doing things. Sarah was very observant. She noticed the smallest details, like how I paused a bit longer on the pages of the fashion magazines in the waiting room, or how I seemed more interested in the women's clothing ads than the men's. I tried to be discreet, but Sarah had a keen eye. One day, Sarah made a casual comment about a dress in one of the magazines.
"That would look great on you, Mr. Thomas,"
she said with a playful smile. I was taken aback. Was she joking? Did she suspect something? I laughed it off, but her words stuck with me. As days passed, Sarah continued to drop subtle hints. She would talk about fashion, makeup, and even hairstyles, always trying to include me in the conversation. I was cautious, not sure how to respond, but deep down, a part of me wanted to open up to her. It was like she saw the person I was hiding inside. Sarah's presence started to change the atmosphere in the office. She brought in potted plants and colorful art, making the space feel warmer and more inviting. I found myself looking forward to coming to work, just to see what new idea Sarah had implemented. It was a strange feeling, one that I hadn't experienced in a long time. One afternoon, as we were working late on a project, Sarah turned to me and said, "Mr. Thomas, have you ever thought about changing your look? Trying something new?" Her question caught me off guard. Was this her way of saying she knew about my secret? I was nervous, but also curious. What did she have in mind? That's when Sarah suggested something that would turn my world upside down. "What if I gave you a makeover, just for fun, to see a different side of you?" The idea was both terrifying and exciting. A part of me wanted to say yes, to see what it would be like to let that hidden part of me out, even if just for a moment. But another part of me was scared. What if someone found out? What would people think? The next day, I arrived at the office with a lot on my mind. The idea of a makeover was still fresh, but I pushed it aside as I greeted Sarah. She was already at her desk, busy with her tasks. Sarah's presence had brought a new energy to the office, and I found myself admiring her dedication and bright attitude. As the day went on, Sarah and I worked closely on various projects. She was quick to learn and had a knack for organizing everything perfectly. I noticed how she added small, personal touches to her workspace, like a colorful mug for her coffee and a small plant on her desk. These little things made the office feel more lively. During lunch, Sarah asked about my plans for the weekend. I usually kept to myself, but her friendly nature made it easy to talk. We chatted about mundane things like movies and the weather. It was a simple conversation, but it felt nice to connect with someone at work. Later in the afternoon, Sarah brought up the idea of the makeover again. "It could be a fun way to relax after a busy week," she suggested with a smile. The thought made me nervous, but also a bit excited. I had always kept my desire to dress differently a secret, but the idea of exploring it with someone else was intriguing. I hesitated before responding. "Maybe," I said finally, "but it would have to be very private. I don't want anyone else to know about it." Sarah nodded, understanding my concern. "Of course, Mr. Thomas, it'll just be between us. I promise." The next few days were a whirlwind of work and meetings, but through it all, Sarah's offer stayed in my mind. I found myself thinking about what clothes I would wear, what makeup would look like on me, and how I would feel being dressed so differently. Finally, on Friday, I made up my mind. I approached Sarah at the end of the day. "About the makeover," I began, trying to sound casual. "I think I'd like to try it." Sarah's face lit up with excitement. "Great! How about tomorrow? My friend has a small salon where we can go. It'll be private and no one will bother us." The rest of the evening, I was a mix of nerves and anticipation. I went home and looked at my hidden collection of clothes, wondering what Sarah would think of them. Would she think I was silly for wanting to dress like this? Or would she understand? Saturday came, and I met Sarah at the small salon she had mentioned. It was a cozy place, with bright lights and mirrors all around. Sarah's friend greeted us warmly and led us to a private room. Sarah had brought a selection of clothes for me to try. There were dresses, skirts, and blouses in various styles and colors. I felt overwhelmed seeing so many options. Sarah could see my hesitation and gently encouraged me. "Just pick whatever you feel drawn to," she said softly. I chose a simple knee-length dress. It was a soft shade of pink with a floral pattern. The fabric felt light and airy, so different from my usual suits. Sarah helped me put it on, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of another version of myself in the mirror. Next came the makeup. Sarah's friend was a professional and knew exactly what to do. She applied foundation, eyeshadow, and lipstick with skilled hands. I watched in amazement as my face transformed. The makeup was subtle but made a big difference. I hardly recognized myself. Finally, Sarah suggested I try a wig. She had brought a blonde one, long and wavy. When I put it on, the change was complete. I looked in the mirror and saw someone new, someone who felt more like the real me than I had ever seen before. Sarah and her friend were supportive and kind throughout the process. They complimented me and made me feel comfortable. It was a strange experience seeing myself like this, but it also felt right in a way I couldn't explain. After the makeover, Sarah and I sat and talked for a while. She didn't press me to talk about how I felt, and I was grateful for that. It was enough just to be there, dressed as I had always wanted, even if it was just for a few hours. When it was time to change back, I felt a pang of sadness. But I also felt grateful to Sarah for giving me this opportunity. It was a small step, but it felt significant. I thanked her and her friend, and we promised to keep this our secret. Monday came, and I returned to the office feeling different. The weekend's experience had opened a door I had kept closed for so long. I found myself glancing at Sarah throughout the day, grateful for what she had done for me, yet unsure how to proceed. As we worked, Sarah seemed to sense my mixed feelings. She was her usual cheerful self, but I noticed her throwing me supportive glances. It was comforting to know she was there, a friend who had seen a side of me no one else at work had. The week progressed with our usual routine of meetings and reports, but there was a new undercurrent in my interactions with Sarah. We shared a secret now, and it somehow brought us closer. She would occasionally make subtle references to fashion and style, careful not to draw attention, but enough for me to know she remembered our weekend. One afternoon, as we were organizing some files, Sarah casually mentioned a fashion show happening in the city. "It could be fun to go, just to see the different styles," she said with a casual shrug. I was surprised by her suggestion. Going to a fashion show? That was out of my comfort zone, but the idea was also exciting. "I'll think about it," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. But inside, my heart was racing. The thought of going out, possibly dressed differently, was both scary and thrilling. The more I thought about it, the more the idea grew on me. It was a chance to step out, even if just a little, into the world as the person I felt I was inside. I decided to go for it. "Let's go to the fashion show," I told Sarah the next day. Her face lit up with joy. "It'll be great, Mr. Thomas," she exclaimed. We planned to meet at the fashion show the following weekend. I spent the week in a mix of nerves and excitement. This was a big step for me, going out in public to a place where fashion was the focus. I wondered if I would be brave enough to dress differently for the event. The day of the fashion show arrived. I chose to wear a simple outfit from my hidden collection, a pair of dark slacks and a soft blue blouse. It was understated, but a huge step for me. I looked at myself in the mirror, taking in the sight. This was me, a part of me that I was slowly learning to accept. Sarah met me outside the venue. She gave me an encouraging smile. "You look great," she whispered as we walked in. The fashion show was vibrant, with music, lights, and people everywhere. Models walked the runway in beautiful, extravagant outfits. I was mesmerized by the colors, the designs, the way the fabrics moved. As we watched, Sarah and I chatted about the outfits. It felt natural, talking about fashion in a way I had never done before. I felt a sense of freedom being there, dressed as I was, talking about something I had always been interested in but had kept hidden. After the show, Sarah and I grabbed a coffee. "How do you feel?" she asked gently. I took a moment before answering. "It feels good," I admitted. "Scary, but good," Sarah nodded, understanding my mix of emotions. After the fashion show, things at the office felt a bit different. I was more open with Sarah, and she seemed to understand me better. We worked well together, and I started to feel more comfortable around her. One day, Sarah came to my office with an idea. "Mr. Thomas, I've been thinking," she started. "What if we did another makeover, but this time we go a bit further? Maybe try some new styles or even go out for a bit." Her suggestion surprised me, but the thought of exploring more was exciting. I was nervous, but curious. "What do you have in mind?" I asked. Sarah smiled. "I know a great shop where we can try different clothes, and maybe after we can grab a bite to eat. It'll be fun, and it's all up to you how much you want to try." The idea of going out in public dressed differently was scary, but Sarah's confidence gave me courage. "Okay, let's do it," I said, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. The weekend came, and we met at the shop Sarah mentioned. It was a small, cozy place with a lot of different clothes. Sarah was like a guide, showing me various outfits and encouraging me to try them on. I chose a few things that caught my eye: a floral dress, a soft cardigan, and a pair of comfortable flats. Trying on the clothes was a new experience. The dress was light and flowed around my legs, so different from the pants and suits I was used to. Sarah helped me with the cardigan and shoes, and for a moment, I saw a different person in the mirror. Next, Sarah suggested we do a little makeup. She had brought a small kit with her. "Just a bit," she said, "to complete the look." She applied some foundation, a light eyeshadow, and a soft lip color. It was subtle, but made me feel different, more like the person I wanted to be. I was hesitant about going out, but Sarah was supportive. "We'll just go for a short walk, and if you're not comfortable, we can come back," she assured me. Taking a deep breath, I agreed. Walking outside felt strange. I was self-conscious, wondering if people could tell I was different. But as we walked, I noticed that most people didn't pay us any attention. They were busy with their own lives. It was a relief, and slowly I started to relax and enjoy the walk. We found a quiet cafe and decided to stop for a snack. Sitting there, dressed as I was, felt like a big step. I was out in public, expressing a part of myself I had always hidden. It was scary, but with Sarah there, I felt safe. As we ate, we talked about normal things, movies, books, and the weather. It was a simple conversation, but it meant a lot to me. I was being myself, and it felt good. After our snack, we walked back to the shop. I thanked Sarah for her support and for helping me take another step in exploring who I am. She smiled and said, "I'm just glad I could help. Remember, you're not alone in this." One quiet afternoon, Sarah brought up a new idea. "Mr. Thomas, how about we try something different this weekend? Maybe a full day of exploring your style, like a mini adventure." Her proposal sounded exciting, and a part of me leaped at the chance. Sure," I replied, my voice a mix of nervousness and excitement. We planned to meet on Saturday at a place Sarah knew, a small boutique that was known for its privacy and friendly staff. Saturday arrived, and I met Sarah at the boutique. The shop was cozy and welcoming, with clothes of all sorts neatly displayed. The staff greeted us warmly, making me feel comfortable right away. Sarah had arranged for a full makeover. First, we started with clothing. I tried on various outfits, dresses, skirts, and blouses in different colors and styles. Each piece felt unique, and I was amazed at how different fabrics and cuts changed my appearance. Sarah was there the whole time offering advice and encouragement. Once we settled on a few outfits, we moved on to makeup. A friendly makeup artist at the boutique showed me how to apply different products. We started with foundation, then added a bit of blush, some eyeshadow, and lipstick. With each step, I saw my reflection transform, becoming more and more like the person I felt inside. The biggest change came with the wig. Sarah had picked out a beautiful blonde wig that was long and slightly curly. When I put it on, I hardly recognized myself. The person staring back at me from the mirror was a version of myself I had only dreamed of. After the makeover was complete, Sarah suggested we go out for a bit. "Let's go for a walk in the park," she said. "It's a beautiful day, and it'll be nice to enjoy the outdoors." Walking in the park, I felt a mixture of emotions. I was self-conscious, but also exhilarated. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and I felt a part of the world in a way I never had before. We walked along the paths, chatted, and even stopped for ice cream. As we sat on a bench enjoying our ice cream, Sarah turned to me. "How do you feel?" she asked gently. I took a moment to think, then replied, "I feel happy. A little scared, but mostly happy." Sarah smiled. "That's good. Remember, this is all about finding what makes you feel comfortable and happy." The rest of the day passed in a blur of new experiences. We strolled around the park, visited a few shops, and even had lunch at a small cafe. Through it all, Sarah was by my side, a supportive friend guiding me through this new world. When it was time to go home, I felt a pang of sadness. The day had been like a dream, and I didn't want it to end. But I also knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I arrived early at the office, my mind set on what I needed to do. I called a meeting with my team, a group of people I had worked with for years but never really knew the real me. As everyone gathered in the conference room, my heart raced. I looked around at their familiar faces, wondering how they would react to what I was about to say. Sarah was there too, giving me an encouraging nod. I stood up, taking a deep breath. "I have something important to share with you all," I began, my voice steady. "For a long time, I have been struggling with something very personal. I've realized that the person you see every day isn't the real me." There was silence in the room as everyone waited for me to continue. "The truth is," I said, "I feel more myself when I am dressed as a woman. This is who I am, and I can't hide it anymore." The room was quiet for a moment, and then, one by one, my colleagues started to respond. There were expressions of surprise, but also nods of understanding and words of support. "We're here for you," said one of my team members. "Thank you for trusting us with this," said another. The support from my team was overwhelming. I had been so afraid of their reactions, but they accepted me with kindness and respect. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Sarah came up to me after the meeting, her eyes shining with pride. "I knew you could do it," she said, and I felt a surge of gratitude for her unwavering support. Over the next few days, I began to make changes at work. I started wearing clothes that made me feel comfortable and true to myself. It was a big adjustment for everyone, but my colleagues were supportive, making the transition smoother than I had expected. As the days turned into weeks, I felt more and more like myself. I no longer had to hide or pretend. I was finally living as the person I was meant to be. I also realized that this change wasn't just about me. It was about creating an environment where everyone felt free to be themselves. I started initiatives at work to promote diversity and acceptance. It was my way of giving back and making sure no one else felt they had to hide who they were. Life at the office became more vibrant and inclusive. We celebrated our differences, and it brought us closer as a team. Our productivity and creativity soared, and it wasn't long before our efforts were recognized by the wider company. I often thought back to the first time I tried on a dress in secret, how scared and alone I felt. Now, here I was, accepted and supported by the people around me. It was a journey I never expected to take, but one that had led me to a place of honesty and happiness. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.